Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to English Hour with Hayatu Gebri in the studio today. Faisal Hilali on the technical engineering side. Hopefully, two topics for you today. The first one will be about education in the United States with the Regional Educational Advising Coordinator for North Africa and the Middle East. And the second part of the program, we will talk about a cultural event which will take place here in Tunisia, organized by an Institute of Languages, and about the embassy, about the consulate of the Polish embassy here in Tunisia. Stay with us. Our first track, of course, without forgetting, today is a very important day. It is the 10th of December, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the UN General Assembly proclaimed the 10th of December as a Human Rights Day in 1950 to bring to attention of the peoples of the world the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as the common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations. This year's slogan, Human Rights 365, encompasses the idea that every day is a Human Rights Day and that human rights belong equally to each of us and bind us together as a global community with the same ideals and values. Also, from the 25th of November, which is the day of the elimination of all forms of discrimination and violence against women, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence against Women, until today, the 10th of December, Human Rights Day, an international campaign was launched then from the 25th of November until the 10th of December. And it is about 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. This event came to mobilize, raise awareness, and trigger action to end the global scourge of violence against women and girls around the world. Our guests are here today. So for the first part, we are going to talk about Education USA and about education and about how can people apply and the universities they can apply to, what are the different steps, etc. with my guests here in the studio. So I have the pleasure to have with us today Ms. Karen Bauer, who is the Education USA Regional Director for the Middle East and North Africa. We also have Ms. Kate Hall, who is the Cultural Attaché at the American Embassy in Tunis. And we have Myriam Laabidi, who is the Education USA Coordinator for Tunisia. So welcome to all of you, and it's a pleasure to have you with us today to talk about Education USA. So let's start with you, Karen, since you are here on a specific visit, and the purpose of your visit and Education USA, what is it?
Excellent. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to come back to Tunisia. I was here about 5 years ago, and you have such a beautiful country. It's been fabulous to visit the Education USA Center at the Amity Center here in Tunis. So just to give you a little bit about Education USA and who we are, Education USA is a State Department initiative, and we have about 170 offices worldwide, and our whole goal is to give students information about the number of colleges and universities that we have in the United States. We have over 4,500 colleges and universities, so to tell them about the opportunities and then to teach them about the application process.
So this is what you do, but how do you do it? Do you go to each country and reach out for students? How do you reach out for students? How do students become aware of the programs available, of the universities available that they can apply to?
Sure. Well, it's slightly different in each country. Here in Tunisia, we have our Education USA office that's housed at the Amity Center.
Right.
And so we have Myriam, who is with us today, and she is our education advisor. And she is really the one on the ground that meets with students and gives them information, invites them to the center to tell them about the various opportunities that exist. So I have the opportunity to come and through her meet the wonderful students that are here and give them the support from the State Department as well as the great programs and resources that we have to offer.
Right. Okay. So, what are the major steps that any student, whatever the country, has to follow in order to apply for studies in the U.S., whether he is applying through a scholarship or whether he is funding his own studies in the U.S.?
That's a really great question because the admission process is very different in the United States than it is in most countries. And so the first step is for a student to research the schools that they're interested in applying to. I mentioned there are so many schools. There's over 4,500. So we give them the schools, the information and the tools to first try to find the schools that the right fit for them, whether it's location or cost or program. The second step is really funding their education, trying to decide, how much money they have to allocate towards their studies. If they're looking for scholarships, to look for the various scholarships that exist. And then the third step is the application process, so going through the application process. The fourth step is the applying for the student visa. And then our fifth step is preparing to depart to the United States. So Education USA has these 5 steps, and we have various resources and presentations that are tied to the 5 steps to study in the U.S.
And the 5 steps are common to all students, whatever the country. They are applicable everywhere.
Yes.
That's the normal procedure.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Let me come to you, Myriam. So since you are in charge of Education USA here for Tunisia, so can you tell us a little bit about some of maybe the most frequent questions asked by Tunisian students who would like to go to the US, for example?
Basically, my job is to give the basic information to Tunisian students. I went from elementary school to graduate school in Tunisia, so I have all the necessary information, all the basic information about the Tunisian system, which is a very good first step, because that's basically the link between how can I fit Tunisian students in the American system, in American schools. So basically, there are 2 categories of people. There are people who have kind of unclear information about the educational system in the U.S. So I'm at the point where I need to explain and re-explain and provide reliable and up-to-date information.
And that's a key point, I guess.
Exactly.
Yes.
For example, I have people, usually parents, who come over to ask me about the American baccalaureate. Well, it does not exist. The system is really different. Or people who have no information whatsoever and they want to have the basic information to see if they're really interested in pursuing their higher education in the U.S. So for that, I usually organize weekly sessions. I have a weekly information session at Amethyst. In El Safari.
Which day?
Yeah, it's every Wednesday at 1.
Right. So like today?
Yes. I mean, I usually ask them to call Amethyst at least 24 hours in advance to confirm, because sometimes I do the same presentation, but I usually do it at Amethyst, but sometimes I go to specific campus, or sometimes I go to Amethyst SUS. So I'm available for students that are in the region.
So either students come to you or you go to them as well. You reach out in so many different ways.
So I have opening hours, opening office hours to receive students, to receive parents, and I work closely with parents and with school counselors. I also work with students who also love to spread the word. Like they have, friends who are interested, relatives who are interested. And I also do outreach visits, either at universities, or I work a lot with associations, with student cohorts and
an idea about maybe can you give us an idea about maybe the category of students who are most likely to be interested by going to the US and study, whether they are finishing high school and starting university or postdoctoral studies? Which category is mostly interested by studying in the US?
Well, it really depends on the need. There is an increasing number of high school students who are interested in, programs in the U.S., especially students who are, science-oriented or language-oriented. And there is the, master's and, PhD students who we know that some universities lack of resources, and our students want to go further and deeper into research at some specific fields like, chemical engineering or, these kind of very, sharp fields. So they ask for short-term academic and research opportunities in the U.S. So
like internships, for example.
Yeah, internships. It's different than
than studies. We'll come to that. Kate, may I ask you about again? It's about studies in the U.S. and I know that at the American Embassy there are so many scholarships on offer. So can you give us an idea about because for the scholarships, most of them they cover the studies. The studies are funded by the scholarship.
True, but there's a big difference between the Education USA and what they promote and the scholarships that we offer at the U.S. Embassy. At the U.S. Embassy, our scholarships range from a few weeks to one academic year to a master's degree program. But our Education USA team helps students apply for typically 4-year full-term studies.
Right.
And they can help students apply for funding or tuition assistance to cover those 4 years, whereupon the scholarships that the U.S. Embassy allocates are for just at most a 2-year master's degree or a 1-year undergraduate degree. But we have a lot of scholarships open right now that are accepting applications.
Right.
Of course, the Thomas Jefferson Scholarship, which I've talked about here before.
That's right.
That's for
which deadline is very close.
The deadline is very close. It's the
December 19th or 15th.
The 15th.
15th, yes.
So it's on Monday. We've got, and that's for Tunisian ESAT, IHET students as well as Tunisian undergraduate students. We have several summer programs for summer institutes on social entrepreneurship, women's leadership, civic engagement. We have the Tech Girls program for girls aged 15 to 17 who are interested in technology. We also have the MEPI Student Leaders program. That's another summer program. And several professional programs. So the professional fellows for organizations working with persons with disabilities. We're accepting applications for that program. So all of the programs you can find on our website, tunisia.usembassy.gov. You can find the application, the more information about the programs, and information about when the programs are closing. So these are the ones that are open now. They're closing throughout December and a few in January. So look now or like us on Facebook and you'll get reminders about all of our programs as well.
So there are really plenty of opportunities. And as you said, these scholarships are very different from what Education USA offers. This is something very specific to studies, which are fully funded then by the participants themselves. Yes, Karen?
Yes. Well, a lot of the students that come to the Education USA office are looking for financial aid, and there are many colleges and universities that have aid for international students.
Right.
It's important to make a distinction between the different types of aid. There's merit-based aid, which is aid that's based on the student's academic background.
That's
so the student has such good grades,
outstanding skills or academic skills.
Exactly.
Yes.
And a university recognizes this and gives the student financial aid based on that. And then, of course, there's needs
How much
aid.
could it be? Do you have just an idea?
Fully funded.
Wow.
In fact, we have students from Tunisia who are studying in the United States at U.S. universities that are paying their entire education.
That's excellent.
Sometimes it can be 75%, 50%. They really look at the need of the student and how much the student can afford. Now, of course, we're talking about top students. So students who are looking at these types of scholarships really need to be savvy. They need to come into the Education Advising Center, target institutions that have aid for international students, and then have the grades to be successful. But what I would say is that, Tunisian students need to know that we really value international students in our classrooms. We do not want students to be sitting around and only having Americans talking about the issues of the world or what's happening. We want your perspective. We want your contribution. And so they should know that we put a lot of value in the United States on bringing international students to the U.S. Just this year alone, we have 538 Tunisian students in the United States. That's an increase of 17%. So we see
from last year.
From last year. So we see that the U.S. is continuing to be a destination for international students. Regionally in the Middle East, North Africa, it went up by 20%. And so the aid is there, and it's just a matter of the student doing their homework and coming into the center and working with the Education USA office and Myriam to find those opportunities.
Right. And how soon do the students need to identify the place where they would like to go to the U.S. and to be able to start the whole process of those 5 steps?
Yes, so this is a very interesting question. At all levels, I usually recommend to students to start the process at least a year or a year and a half in advance.
Right.
So yes, if you want to apply to an American university right after your baccalaureate exam, you need to be starting the application process, having the basic information in the middle of your 3rd year of high school.
Right.
If you're already enrolled in the baccalaureate, it's almost too late for you.
And because students here are not aware, of the education system in the U.S., and they try to copy on what is happening here because students get placed, at universities after the baccalaureate.
Exactly.
So it takes really the summer, 2 months during the summer for them to be placed at various universities. So they try to think that everywhere it's the same. So
they assume that the system is really close. This is why I try to, find different ways to spread the information, either with, multiplying the sessions I hold, or, doing outreach sessions out of Amadis and out of the Education USA Center.
Right.
This information is available on the Education USA website. If you follow the 5 steps, especially when I get emails or phone calls from students in places that I still cannot reach, I automatically send them the links, that are related to either university search websites and the Education USA, so they can easily and follow the 5 steps that Karen explained earlier.
Right.
So for all levels, it's a year and a half, because the hardest part is to find the right university list.
University, that's it.
And for those who have questions about anything, I usually give them 2 different websites to research, one for undergraduate and another one for graduate. They can come up with a very large list, and I can help them narrow down the list, either on their own criteria to see what their expectations are, help them manage their expectations, and if they still have a huge problem with funding, I have a list for undergraduates of how much money a college they chose is offering for international students. Like I have a list of, very reliable information that I can provide them. Right. So they can always call me for help.
Right. So to all students who are listening, if you intend really to start your studies in the U.S. At any university or college or whatever, so as Myriam said, you have to start at least a year and a half in advance in order to be on time and to prepare for the 5 different steps that Karen has mentioned earlier. Karen, this Education USA provides maybe assistance, help to students, international students who come to the U.S. Does it go the other way around as well, to American students to go to other countries as well?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, our whole really goal is to bring international students to the United States, but we do have a number of Americans that do go abroad and study. It's not a part of Education USA, but our colleges and universities have study abroad offices. A lot of times it's built into the curriculum. It's a mandate of many colleges and universities to get their students outside of the United States to study. And of course, we do have American students studying in Tunisia.
Right, because that's a very important part of the exchange, and it goes both ways.
Correct.
And not only in one direction.
Yeah, I
Yes,
just wanted
Myriam.
to add one more detail. And Tunisian students who go to American universities promote their own country and their own culture.
Right. They
so
will
that
be the ambassadors
yeah,
of their
exactly.
country.
So they meet with American students and they promote their culture, and they attract American students to come either for internships in Tunisia or elsewhere. We have Connor, the American Corner coordinator.
Right.
He
yes.
has actually a friend of his who's Tunisian who studied in the same campus. This student did a great job, promoting our culture, talking about Tunisia. So those students were interested, okay, why not an internship in Tunisia or a study abroad program in Tunisia after college? And this is how it works.
Right.
So our students promote their countries. So
that's right.
So Americans would
and
come
when
to visit.
when these students come back from these wonderful experiences that they've had, either in the U.S. or in other countries, what kind of feedback do you get from them? Are there students who really would like to go back to that same country and study and spend another period there? Myriam, Karen, Kate as well?
Yeah, I would say, just generally speaking, not even about Tunisia, but about the whole MENA region. I love it when I go to a meeting and I meet with various individuals and I walk through the door and they say, oh, you're American. And then all of a sudden, sometimes an accent starts to kick in and they're like, well, I studied in the United States in the 1970s, the 1980s. People remember that experience, regardless of going abroad, leaving your culture, sharing a bit of your culture, and then coming back. It's such a rewarding experience. It's life-changing.
It can be a real landmark in a person's career, really.
Exactly. Yes. And so we really are excited when we meet students and hear about their experiences and then see them back at home and thriving in their careers and using what they learned in the United States, whether it's language, culture, knowledge, and moving forward.
Right.
And what's wonderful is when you see people like Myriam, who had an international experience in the United States, and she comes back, and now her career is dedicated to trying to help those
students.
fellow Tunisians have similar experiences.
And
I forgot to say that you are a Kennedy Lugar exchange program. Yes.
It was a long time ago. I enjoyed
a long time
it.
ago.
Yeah.
How long ago?
I came back to Tunis in 2006.
Well, I think mine was older than yours. Well, I was in the U.S. in 1979 and on an exchange program as well.
This is great. Well, the interesting about our students who go there to study, they just see how much potential Tunisia has, and they come back with entrepreneurship ideas that they apply here. We have plenty of examples. I don't even know where to start.
Right. Okay, so to conclude, is there like an information session? Is there a meeting which is scheduled with students, with especially to meet you, Karen, and maybe to know more about Education USA with you, Myriam?
Yeah. I'm always available if they want to, call Amethyst. I'm reachable. My email's on the websites. They can reach me. They can write to me, send me their list, or send me their essays. I have my weekly, information sessions.
Right.
It's open to public. You don't need to register. It's free. It's for everyone at all levels.
And it's every Wednesday at Amethyst.
Every Wednesday.
But they have to call in to
1
check first.
Just for the check-in wheel. It's usually every Wednesday at 1, but sometimes I need to do outreach visits, so to make sure that they don't come for nothing.
That's right, that you are available. Do you hold sessions like for 1 or 2 students?
The number doesn't matter.
Right.
Sometimes I get 1 student, sometimes I get 2 parents,
right,
and sometimes I can barely, find room to fit everyone.
Right.
I remember once the biggest information session I held for 80 students.
Wow.
And there's a lot of opportunities for students if they can't make it to Sousse or to Tunis.
Exactly.
Education USA does a lot of online outreach as well and hosts webinars so students can send in questions and have them answered in live time over the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah, I highly recommend that students go to the Education USA Amethyst Facebook page to like us so that they can find out about these opportunities, because I think worldwide one of the things that Education USA is doing is we're really pushing our webinars. We have MOOCs. There's so many different other platforms for students not necessarily in Tunis and who are outside the region who want to have access to the same information. So there's a variety of different mediums on how to reach us, and even if you physically can't come.
Yeah, I really encourage them to go to the website because there is a wealth of information that they can benefit from and in order to know exactly what they want. Well, thank you so much for having accepted the invitation today. I look forward to more updates on the upcoming, especially from you, Kate, on the upcoming programs and scholarships. And we hope that things go well for all our students who would like to go to the US or American students coming to Tunisia, because the most important thing is to promote understanding between cultures and between people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're most welcome. Thank you. Stay with us.